It's another week of SDH AM. John here, you there. Thanks for hanging out as you always do. And today, majority of the show is going to be about the USMNT and what happened on the weekend. We do have Bart Keeler coming in his traditional 10 o'clock slot to start off hour number 2, and that will kind of be the ranting and the recapping. And we do have sound from Tim Ream and Serginho Dest after the match, and we'll get into the South Korea match in hour number 2 in depth. Please adjust your volumes accordingly. In hour number 1, we'll wrap up the discussion about, we'll start the discussion about Tuesday, and then we'll get into Bart. Dan Orlowitz joined us on tape last night from Tokyo. And so for us, our time here in the East Coast of the United States, it was nighttime. For Dan, it was breakfast. Brunch, maybe. So Dan's going to the interview with Dan is going to be in hour number 1, previewing just to kind of give you an idea what the Japanese, what the Japan national team is going to look like and what they have looked like. We'll talk about what happened against Mexico and leading into the matchup against the United States. So we'll have our opposition research involving Japan here in the tail end of hour number 1. Bart will start hour number 2, looking back at what happened. And we'll see where it goes. We do have some news to get into this morning and some stuff having to do with Spurs and other things that are out in the ether. We'll get into all of that this morning. And it's going to be another fun, busy week just to kind of give you the lay of the land. Opening kickoff in a bit continues to deal with soccer on the university scale in Middle Georgia. There's your tease. Tomorrow, it is going to be KCD. Casey White's going to join us with all the stuff that she did over the last X number of days. So pick a league. KCD probably called something in it. We'll talk about it. She'll be at 9:15. Then we'll track down Scott Wells, the head coach at Gardner-Webb, as they came off of their big win in Morgantown, West Virginia last week. So we'll find out what's going on with Gardner-Webb as they knock off a top 15 team. I think it was the first time that they've done that in school history. First time in 3 years that West Virginia, I believe, had lost at home. So we'll catch up with Scott after his drive home and crashing and recovering, and hopefully he's recovered. So we'll catch up with the head coach of Gardner-Webb on the men's side, Scott Wells, in hour number 2 tomorrow. And we'll continue our conversations with Jason Stevens as we learn about multi-club ownership models and everything that it entails. That's going to be at the tail end of the show tomorrow. Then Wednesday right now, it's going to be Tyler and hopefully the busiest man in the Northeast, Dylan Butler, getting you ready for the weekend as we start that movement. Then we'll lead into what is going on Thursday. We'll catch up with Dan overnight on Wednesday, our time. And then we'll get ready for the week with the Power Hour of Nino and Nico. Friday, hopefully catch up with our friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring. And we'll start our conversations once again with our friends from Major League Soccer and Apple TV. And we may even have a Leagues Cup update, post-mortem, whatever you want to call it. And then we'll get into that. And we'll see if we can get our opposition research getting you ready for the Columbus match with our friend Chris Doran. So that is my quest to try and track Chris down to have the discussions as we start the push coming out of this international window. So that's the rundown of the week. And it's going to be a pretty busy week. If you do not know or have not remembered or recalled, tomorrow night, your presence is requested if you are in the northeastern section of Atlanta, the eastern half of the city. Jason at 7 o'clock tomorrow night at the Woodruff Library in the Joseph W. Jones room is continuing his lecture series about Atlanta being Soccer City, USA. Tomorrow night, it is going to be Jason and Emory soccer coaches Sue Patberg and Corey Greiner. They're going to discuss Emory's role in Atlanta soccer history and look at the teams from 2025 and look at their seasons. So it is going to be at Emory University tomorrow night, 7 o'clock start time in the Woodruff Library building, the Joseph W. Jones room. Jason and his lecture series continuing. So go and find out about Emory's place in Atlanta soccer, find out about their teams heading into the 25 season, which is now underway. So Jason, Sue Patberg, Corey Greiner. Tomorrow, Emory University, 7 o'clock in the Joseph W. Jones room in the Woodruff Library building. So go, and we'll all be there. So it'll be cool to A, to see everybody, and B, find out about what continues to build as Atlanta is getting ready for the entire planet to come here as a part of the world competition where they're battling for a cup in 2020. So that'll be what we stare at there. It is that time where we get to kind of hang out with our buddy Abe Gordon and find out what's going on. We'll ask Abe. I want to ask Abe. We'll kind of start the discussion about the men's national team because Soccer Satan didn't even wait. Soccer Satan posted in our chat before we were even on the air that watch out, Abe. They waste no time. Soccer Satan at like 10-9 was like, Poch out. And that was the thing he posted before we were 15 minutes on the air, 15 minutes before getting on. He's like, Pochettino out. He's done.
What tournament did they lose in? It was a friendly?
Yes, that is correct.
Well, I don't know. It's like, feels like losing preseason games. Like, if you're going to get fired for something that matters. I understand the frustration. Everyone wants to see their team look good, certainly. I don't know. Like, I'll wait till it's a competitive atmosphere before I panic. So that's where I stand.
Okay, and so speaking of competitive atmospheres, before you panic, do we have an update on Younghoe Koo?
No, not officially, but unofficially, if Arthur Blank's team 1 can help team 2 in one certain way, I'd be holding field goal practice if I were United today, and see what they could figure out, because I don't know what the plan is there, but I don't think Younghoe Koo can be your kicker moving forward after the variety of kicks, some that even went in yesterday. You can't have confidence. You can't lose games because of that. It's like sending a player out there in stoppage time to hit a penalty kick, and he misses frame entirely. That guy shouldn't be taking another penalty kick, right? Mm-hmm. That's the situation you have now for Younghoe Koo with the Atlanta Falcons and the field goal kicking. So I do expect them to bring someone else in. I think he was only here because the salary is a little bit more than you cared to part with at the time. You gave him an opportunity to come back healthy from injury. Still missed the kick. Got to go. Now, you're talking about guys losing their jobs and Pochettino out. Younghoe Koo probably has to be out.
Yeah, it was a rough day yesterday for the field goal kicking for Atlanta United. Wow, for the Falcons, and it was part of my drive coming back from South Georgia was listening to that game yesterday against Tampa. So I had to ask for the Falcons fans here as we get ready for everything in a new week in the National Football League. Atlanta United, obviously, you've got a lot of folks that are away for the international window, and obviously that speaks very well of United and their placement, whether it is with U's, with the USMNT, and you've got a lot of international duty, but you got to get them back here, and you're hoping that everybody on FlightAware is keeping track of everything, because you got to get them back here. It's a big matchup against Columbus on the weekend.
Yeah, a couple of things here. Like, it really is crazy when we get to these international breaks, and I'm always – in my mind, I'm always like, 2 or 3 guys are going out. And then I look at the list. I'm like, oh, there's like 9 names. Mm-hmm. Like, I always forget 2 or 3 guys. And then you have some of the academies representing youth clubs and here and there. It always like it kind of takes me by surprise how many guys really are part of their national teams. And like you said, that is a good thing. Sometimes it hurts you in the MLS season as guys get back. I'll say this. I'm a little less concerned about it because of where Atlanta United is, right? It's not like you're fighting for a playoff spot. And so if guys aren't able to give you, their regular minutes because of travel, because of international duty, if that's going to happen, I think probably this is the year you're a little bit more okay with it than in previous seasons where you really felt that it hurt your standing in one way or another. I think we all want to close the season out strong, and certainly you'll look to do that Saturday against Columbus. And you got to, we'll try and feel out if you lost momentum over the course of the off week coming off. But you had a really nice result there in Nashville. You got another team that's going to be fighting for top standing in the Eastern Conference coming in, and they're going to do their thing. And we'll see. I think you've stood up for yourself a little bit over the past couple of weeks. Hasn't necessarily always gone the way you've wanted, but I think you've showed that you're still fighting, and I expect to show that fight against Columbus at home. You've only got a couple of home games left here the rest of the season, and look, I know it's tough to still be locked in, right? College football has taken over Saturday. It's a huge week in college football. You've got a ton of incredible matchups. It's probably the biggest week of the season potentially is week 3. So, I'm not going to lie, going to have some split screen action, going to have the game here in front of me at the press box, and then, YouTube TV 4 screen going on here on the computer probably. So, okay. But yeah, I think it's still an opportunity to, over the course, it's not just this coming Saturday here, John, and returning from international. I think the next 5, 6 games, whatever it is, start to feel good about yourself for a variety of reasons heading into the offseason, whether it's because of the new players, whether it's because of a young goalie, whatever it is, start to feel good about yourself heading into the offseason with a little bit of optimism and some momentum. I think you started that by getting your first road win against a very good Nashville team, and I think you can continue that potentially on Saturday.
Columbus right now is in the street fight in the East, where right now they're in the 7, but they have match in hand on the top 4. And they also are, but obviously Messi and friends, they have 3 matches in hand, or 4, depending on who you're talking to, so they can make a rush up the table. 46 points for Columbus right now. They're at the 7. Orlando is in 5th at 47 points. Nashville is at 50. Charlotte is at 50. So with a match in hand, you could be the 5, chasing as you go. And it's another opportunity for where Atlanta took on the number 4 team in the Eastern Conference and shut them down. Now it's a chance to take on a very, very pesky, traditionally tough side in Columbus and do the same thing. And you get to do it at home for a change instead of having to do it on the road chasing after that first win that you were talking about.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, the game at lower.com field, Atlanta United had the better of it for the first 20 minutes, and then a 20-minute stretch heading into halftime, and essentially you were down 3-0 at that point, and it was over. And I feel like I remember thinking, man, there's a chance here or there. Atlanta United could have taken a lead, didn't, and then got punished with 3 goals in 20 minutes. And so it's one of those things where, you look back at some of the issues you had during that stretch, and you just hope to avoid that. And I think we've talked about this again over the last month. When you have the chances, you have to finish it. They've done a little bit better of recent doing that, but also they've made it a little bit tougher to score. I think Mihai has come in since he joined the squad, has been very good. Him and Stian Gregerson pairing. We now got Alzate in there as well, so looking forward to seeing a little bit more of him. So a little bit of things are different from the last time Atlanta and Columbus played, and hopefully the result will show that.
Yep. To your point, Marcelo Herrera scored in the 23rd minute, and Jason Russell Rowe had a brace in 10, and it was 3-0 at the break. Yeah. Brooks scored in the 56 to make it 3-1. Your lineup on that day was listed as a 5-3-2, so take it as you wish. Brad and net, left to right, back 5. Pedro, Luis, Efren Morales, Matt Edwards, Brooks Lennon. Your midfielders on the day were Mateus Klick, Bart Sleesh, and Miranchuk, and then you had Miggy and Latte Lot in your 5-3.
I mean, 4 of those guys aren't even on the team anymore. Goose is obviously out of the starting lineup, and we'll see how the rest suits up. So it will have a much different feel, at least from a personnel standpoint for Atlanta United. So look forward to seeing that. Also look forward to seeing who comes off the injury list. If we're going to get a full roster for this one, or who's still limited. Obviously, Jay Fortune we know will be out, but right. Is Matt Edwards any closer to return? And are we limited at all up top with striker?
Yeah, and that's the key when you're looking at this turnover that we're seeing. You mentioned 4 that were no longer there. You had Noah Cobb come in as a sub late, so that's
Yeah.
5. So you had 5 guys of the 16 that participated in this match in late June that are no longer a part of the discussion. And to your point about the new guys, by the way, happy birthday, Steven Elzate. You've got a healthy Steon Gregerson, which is something that that has been wanting at the back for Atlanta United, being paired with an Mihai. And in Mihai, you've already seen the leadership that he just exudes, that aura of his that is there, and seeing it with the two of them. And then you mentioned Alzate and what he's able to do off of set pieces. Ronnie Dyla has been very, very high on Alzate as he could be when he gets fit. And Ronnie Dyla has said he's not 90 minutes fit yet, that he could be one of the best midfielders in the league. And, you're dropping that kind of praise on Steven Alzate, who you've brought in. I mean, that's a great expectation. And if that's the ceiling, then I want to see what he looks like when he's 90 minutes fit and what develops from here.
Yeah, and we talked about it over the past couple of pregame shows. Like, who do we want to see get in there, or even in the postgame shows if the lineup in pregame wasn't ideal for us? And Alzate was the one guy I was like, I want to see this guy get in. And I know there's like a handful of players in the discussion in midfield, especially when Jay Fortune is there, especially Matt Edwards can kind of go midfield and defense a little bit, but you had this influx. You had some guys. You had a young guy like Will Riley in the discussion, but Alzate was the one I really wanted to see. And to be honest, I wouldn't mind seeing more of Barakal in certain situations too. I think he can be a nice piece as well, especially off the bench as a sub if you need maybe a little more attacking help from some of these guys in the back. So I just think what you have, right? There are some of these guys who are just – that guy's the mainstay. He's going to be there. And you're looking at Bartosz Slisz, certainly in that discussion, along with a couple of others. But for the midfield discussion, we got to find out who's pairing best with Slisz and how it allows Slisz to potentially play differently, how they maybe need to adjust their style of play to be alongside Slisz and figure that out. And you got a couple of games to do that now with a group of midfielders before you head into the offseason and dial up your plan for next year. And so for me, it's right now about finding out how and what works best alongside Bartosz Slisz. And I think Alzate got his chance last game, and I would imagine we'll get another one on Saturday night. And I look forward to seeing that. Obviously provided the lone assist in that game, and his performance is a lot more than just that one in-swinger, but certainly look forward to seeing more of it from him.
Yep, and Columbus with the gelatinous mass that Wilfred Nancy decides that it's like, okay, you guys you're here, and I'm going to put a formation on a piece of paper, and sure, whistle blows, and then everything just goes all over the place. It's going to be a stern test, and what I mean by that is that Wilfred Nancy has center backs that dive into the attack. No conscience whatsoever. If the space is open and the guy is there, take it and go. There's no fear for anyone jumping into the play and engaging. I think it'll be an interesting matchup with all of that activity coming from the back forward for Columbus against the new folks that are here for Atlanta United. And how do they respond? They're getting used to that rhythm with being around each other, but going up against this offense is an odd animal. And I want to see how the communication is and how everybody slots into place going up against a team like Columbus.
Well, look, it wasn't the prettiest attacking performance from Atlanta United in their win against Nashville, but you also knew what that team was offensively and how dangerous some of their guys could be, specifically in Surge and Mukhtar. And I think you handled them very well. And again, it's been 2 full weeks now, it feels like, since that game was played. But don't forget, Hibbert came up huge in a couple of situations. One at the top of the box against Surge, one from an angle against Mukhtar. And I still find it funny, the expression on Mukhtar's face where he just didn't know what he has to do to get it by this guy. And so I do think you put up a nice defensive performance there. And again, now coming against Columbus, you're going to have to do the same. And everyone wants Atlanta United, right? Going back to, club's not that old, but what we call the glory days, to win games in that style. And I think you want to be a little hesitant to say we need to be winning games 3-4 goals at a time. And if it takes 1-0 or 2-0, 2-1, but a slightly tougher defense to crack, I think you have to get comfortable with that. I think that's probably the plan, right? I think you brought in, as opposed to focusing on the attack in the transfer window, you did focus defensively and even on the defensive midfield from an aspect of positioning. That tells you something that there's a style this team knows they can and can't play right now. And because of some of the issues attacking, you have to win games on the other end of the ball. And I think they've taken that approach and certainly worked against Nashville. We'll hope to get it to work against Columbus as well. And, you know, anytime the attack one wakes up, we would also certainly welcome that too.
Yes. For those following on FlightAware, Poland's 2 national team matches were Thursday and Sunday. It was a draw with the Netherlands and then a 3-1 win against Poland. So unless Bart's taken a day or two just to kind of hang loose a little bit back home, he should be heading back to this side of the Atlantic in short order, and then we'll follow along and see what it's like for Ronald Hernandez to come back from Venezuela and CONMEBOL and all of the other national teams that are falling into place. All right, so hit the promo, and we'll talk about the weekend when we get to the weekend. It's always great to see you to kick off our week, my friend.
Well, look, like we said, it is a football season now, and that still, for the moment, includes Atlanta United. So we're going to be live on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game. Pregame starting at 6:30, kickoff shortly after 7:30 at Mercedes-Benz Stadium against Columbus. So looking forward to it on Saturday night.
Yep, and we will all be there as we always are. What kind of road work did you put in last week?
I did a 5K yesterday, so very happy with the performance. My adult soccer league starts today, so I'm just trying not to get hurt out there.
Okay. You will give us updates with that as well, because I know that Maddie will give updates on her league when she has the opportunity. Yes.
Yes. I'm thankfully finally being allowed to run field this year as opposed to saving the team in net. So I'm looking forward to it.
All right, my friend. Always great to see you to kick off our week. We'll catch up with you soon.
You got it, John.
There goes Abe, and Abe is getting ready for adult soccer league. Oh goodness, we need video proof. We need video proof of him out in the field. That's what we need. It's always great to start our week with Abe to get you ready for everything going on with Columbus and Atlanta United, and we'll see what else is on everybody's mind as we go to start the week. David, let's see. Yeah, David mentioned that Saba got a handful of minutes, and in the 3-0 win for Georgia. Hang on just a second. Let me see if they are done, or if they still have a match to go here in the window. I'm sitting here looking at the World Championships section of our friends at Odds Portal. And that right now we have some stuff going on in the CAF. And so that's why I'm kind of sitting here going, all right, so what's going on? 3 matches that started at 9 o'clock this morning. And it is Equatorial Guinea and Tunisia. They are goalless. Mozambique up 1-0 on Botswana, and Morocco up 1-0 on Zambia at the end of their window. And I believe Morocco qualified with their win on the weekend. And so possibly, let's see if the Georgian national team, as we sit here and look at their window. So next fixtures are in October. Okay, so it was, once again, Thursday, Sunday for Georgia as well. Turkey had a 3-2 win over Georgia back on Thursday. Goals from Davitashvili and Kvaratskhelia. And you had, let me check the lineup here. So I'm trying to see where possibly. So Saba was an unused sub in match number 1. And David, to your point, in the win over Bulgaria, you had, let's see, Saba came in for Davitashvili as a part of that substitution pattern. So at Boris Pakhadze Stadium in Tbilisi, in front of 44,077, Georgia gets the win, and they are second in their group. Spain right now, after 2 matches, they've won both. Georgia and Turkey are 1-0-1, and Bulgaria has lost both matchups and they are in the bottom of their group. Group A, Slovakia leads, winning their first two. Northern Ireland and Germany are 1-0-1. Luxembourg at the bottom. Group B, Switzerland is the only team to have won, knocking off Kosovo, Sweden, and Slovenia. They are the next go-round in this window, and they are right now at 1 point heading into match day 2. Group C, after one match day, Greece right now has a win over Belarus. Denmark and Scotland have the draw. So Greece, 3 points. Denmark, Scotland, 1 point. Belarus is 0. Group D, Iceland and France beat Ukraine and Azerbaijan. It was 5-0 for Iceland over Azerbaijan, 2-0 for France over Ukraine. Iceland ahead in Group D on goal difference. We mentioned Spain, Georgia, Turkey, and Bulgaria in Group E. Group F, Portugal, with one match day done. They are right now at 3 points. Hungary and Ireland have 1 point with their 2-2 draw. Armenia gave up the 5 to Portugal, and they're at the bottom. Group G, it's a 5-team group, and they have blistered through their match days. Right now, the Netherlands and Poland, Netherlands with a match in hand, they are at 10 points and a plus 11 goal difference. Poland right now at 10 points, 5 matches played, behind on goal difference. Finland is at 7 points, Lithuania is at 3, and Malta is at 2. Group H with 5 teams. It is Bosnia-Herzegovina. They are at 12 points. Austria is at 9 with a match in hand. Romania at 6. Cyprus at 3 with 1 win. And San Marino, our friends from San Marino, 5 matches played. They have scored 1 goal. Group I, 5 teams. Norway at 12 points through 4 matches. Lead Israel with 9 points. Italy, 3 matches played, 6 points. Estonia, 5 matches and 3 points. And Moldova is 0 for 4. Group J, 5 teams. North Macedonia is at 11 points, 5 matches played. Belgium match in hand with 10. Wales at 10, but well behind in goal difference. Kazakhstan has 1 win in 5. Liechtenstein has no wins in 5. They have given up 19 goals. Group K, England kind of limped their way through the win against Andorra. They are at 4 matches played, 4 wins, 12 points. Serbia is 3 matches in, match in hand, 7 points. Albania at 5 points. Latvia is at 4. And our friends from Andorra, who I wore on Friday, I believe, are 0 for 5, and they've given up 10 goals. Group L, 5 teams. Czechia is at 12 points. Croatia has only played 3 matches, 9 points. Montenegro, 4 matches, 6. Faroe Islands, 4 matches, 1 win. Gibraltar, 4 matches, and they have given up 16 goals and have only scored 2. So that is your European breakdown quickly, since we went down that rabbit hole. And the short answer to a long question, or the long answer to a short question, is that Bart's window and Saba's window are over, and they should be heading back this way. And Abby with a quick note, Saturday's match, Resurgence. Okay, so that means that I should pack my Resurgence kit and Resurgence stuff. So I will certainly do that. Thank you for that. All right. Now, let's get to opening kickoff before we go to Dan Orlowitz's interview, and then we'll bring in Bart after the top of the hour. All right, so opening kickoff, once again, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Here is the QR code. Start your day at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. You hit that QR code, you dive in, you buy out the store. We want you to do that because use the code soccer down here 15 at checkout, and what you end up getting is a 15% discount. So you buy out the store and you still get 15% of your wallet back. They in turn will take 10%, reinvest it in the youth games, youth initiatives brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Now, we seem to be in opening kickoff. We seem to be drifting down into middle Georgia a lot. And you know, understandably so, when you have the chaos that is attached. So yesterday, was it yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday. Jason had the doubleheader for Mercer on the Mercer University campus. And the women's team got the big win, and you had an Eichelbarger hat trick to get you that win yesterday. So it was a big win on the women's side. And so on senior day against Gardner-Webb, it was 5-0. And so it was Mercer now improving to 4-2. Gardner-Webb at 1-5-1. It was 3 goals in the first half for Mercer and 2 more in the second half. They're getting ready for the matchup against Winthrop on Thursday. So Morgan Eichelbarger gets her first career hat trick, 5-0 win. Mercer outshoots Gardner-Webb 28-13, 14-5 on target. Hayden Lepley and freshman Kelsey Hinton, other goal scorers on the day. Lindsay Bell gets her 20th career clean sheet, 5 saves in the match. The first 2 goals for Eichelbarger come 4 minutes apart in the 14th minute. She gets her first. The second goal basically almost from the same spot near the top of the 18, making it 2-0. Get a third in the 27th with the Hinton goal, and then you end up with the Hinton shot. Sorry, Eichelbarger, Hayden Lepley with the assist from Hinton. That was your score at the break. Then Hinton scores in the 82nd minute. Then Eichelbarger gets her hat trick in the 85th, and that was your 5-0 final. So that set up the nightcap on the boys' side. And suffice to say, with number 22, South Florida coming to town with a record of 2-0-3, going up against Mercer, who was coming in with a record of 2-2-1, you figured it was going to be a tight affair. We were not wrong. So you get a goal early on in the match, and it was a 1-0 lead for South Florida. Let me check the box score really quickly because I want to get this right. So South Florida breaks the deadlock in the 46th, and then that was it for South Florida. So then you are looking at basically a minute to go in regulation. 1-0 down. Mercer is, as you picture the match in your mind's eye, going from right to left. Here's what happened with under a minute to go, courtesy of our friends at ESPN Plus and Mercer. Jason on the call.
And taking it to the corner, trying to find the angle to cross. It's back to Tolu Adeyemi. He beats one. Adeyemi, left-footed cross. A good one to the... It's in! Goal! Goal! Goal out of nothing! Tolu Adeyemi hits the cross, but it ends up off the far post and in. South Florida can't believe it. Tolu Adeyemi got to the end line and hit a cross. You can see charging on the backside is Ellison. That's who he's trying to play it to. It ends up even better off the far post and in. 1-1 with 41 seconds to play.
Once again, courtesy of our friends at Mercer and ESPN Plus. But when you thought the match was over, it wasn't. Our friend J.C. Rivera, who we're used to seeing at VAR in Major League Soccer, was the man in the middle. Here's how the match ended. Once again, courtesy of Mercer and ESPN Plus. Jason on the call.
Nyagarungo cuts in on the right foot, gets into the 18, Bozesan in the arc, and there's gonna be a free kick late. Rivero calls the foul, a free kick, a yellow card shown. South Florida will have an opportunity to restore their lead with the last play of the match. It was chaos at the top of the 18. I feel like I've said chaos 500 times in this match, but that's how it's been. Was cutting across the top of the 18, and the foul was called, so South Florida is going to get a free kick here to win it. Was not a clear situation there where the penalty or the free kick was obvious. This is outside the 18. Fife took the last one and skied it. He takes this one into the wall, off the wall. It's a corner, but there's no time to take it. That's gonna do it. Ball doesn't lie, I guess, in that whole situation. Mercer and South Florida finish level 1-1.
That was your final 1-1, but Mercer had to survive at the end. Tolu Adeyemi gets the late equalizer under a minute to go, and they survive at the tail end of it all. Assist to Ethan Manzella, his first. Bryce Griffith getting the hockey assist there as well. So Mercer hits the road, trip to Colorado this week. They take on Air Force on Thursday, number 15 Denver on Sunday night. Mercer remaining undefeated at bets in 2025, 2-0-2, outscoring their opponents 7-2. Manzella and Griffith both getting their first assists. Manzella, a freshman, getting his first assist in his collegiate career. Griffith, the transfer from South Carolina, gets his first collegiate assist as well. So basically what seems to be happening every single time we are calling, and I mean we in the sense of anybody here on the SDH roster, that anytime anything is going on at Mercer, it's crazy. Women's side one night with Mercer and Kennesaw State, Jason with the number 22 team in the country with South Florida, and Mercer scoring a late equalizer and hanging on for the draw 1-1. So I guess the public service announcement here is this. If we are calling your match, meaning any of us on the SDH roster, just be ready for it. That's opening kickoff. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Here's your QR code once again. For those of you who are watching on the video side of things, you hit that QR code, and we encourage that you buy out the store at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Then you get a 15% discount using Soccer Down Here 15 at checkout. And they, in turn, take 10% reinvested as things that we refer to as cool, courtesy of our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Now, once again, hour number 2, and because of the length of this interview, Bart's probably going to be coming up at about 10:10. So last night late, Dan Orlowitz has covered soccer in Japan for about 2 decades. He's a Philly guy, went over, and we explain how he ended up there and has stayed there for almost 2 decades. And for any news, any insight on J-League, national team, Dan is the guy. So last night, late, our time, which was brunch time, his time today, 13-hour time difference, we caught up with Dan to find out about Tuesday and the U.S. men's national team's next match in Columbus against Samurai Blue. After this, we will go back and do the post-mortem with Bart with the USMNT in South Korea. So go ahead and line up your comments in the Twitch pitch. Here is opposition research on the Japan national team. Dan Orlowitz dropping by the morning show on SDH AM, and he's actually in Japan, 13 hours ahead. Here's our talk. And through the magic of videotape, or at least that's what some folks my age would call it, let's just say recording, and 13 hours, Dan, am I right?
That is correct. The full 13 ahead.
So Dan is 13 ahead as we're talking. So obviously he's already in his Monday as this plays early in our morning show on our morning side of things, where it will be very late night for Dan on Monday. Legitimately, Dan is, and this is not like a Capricorn 1 kind of a thing, you actually are in Japan.
Yes.
How did that happen?
I was an anime nerd in college, and things got out of hand, and it's been 21 years since that start. I mean, basically, I tell people the plan was to graduate, go to language school for a couple of years, and figure out the rest as I go along, and that was 19 years ago.
What has it been like for you to cover the sport in the Far East / from the Far East over almost 2 decades now?
I love it. I played as a kid, but it's in Japan that I fell in love with the club game. The J League is, in my opinion, one of the best in the world, not just from the quality of play, but just the culture, the community, the match day experience. The business side is growing so rapidly in terms of catching up to MLS and to Europe in a lot of ways. It's, you don't have a lot of the issues that you have in other countries in terms of some of the more toxic elements of the fan culture, security issues, what have you. And the soccer is great. It's fun to watch, and it's exciting, and it's unpredictable. I think we have half a dozen teams within 2 points of each other in the J1 right now. We have a proper, home and away, most points wins, pro rel. I'm not going to drag you into that, but it's an amazing league with amazing players, amazing teams, amazing fans, and I've sort of emerged as one of the people advocating for more fans across the world to pay attention to it, and because I think that the Japanese soccer absolutely deserves your attention.
And where Atlanta United is concerned, where we are headquartered, one of the players that has been brought in this year that is getting a lot of time with the MLS Next Pro side, Atlanta United 2, and has come in spot starts and has really shown for the first team is Keeman Togashi, who has spent time at Sagantosu. He's been at Sendai, started off with Yokohama Marinos. What is your database on a player like Togashi? What are we missing out on from a history perspective?
I mean, he's sort of, it's very cool that he was born in New York. I mean, he could have represented the U.S. In a different timeline. He did represent Japan once or twice. I think in the under 23s at the Toulon tournament, which is famous for producing a lot of Japan sort of up and coming stars. And he was just sort of a career J leaguer. Never really stood out, but in fits and starts. Like I saw him play a couple times over the course of covering the league, and you know, one of those, not quite a diamond in the rough, but definitely a gem who, if you can send him overseas and put him in an environment like MLS, he can do things. I think there's a lot of, you look at the number of Japanese players who are going to Europe these days, and I think there's well over 100 Japanese players in elite European competitions, leagues. I'm talking like strong first and second, and even sort of the second or third tier of Japanese player who goes overseas. They can go to MLS, they can go to the Championship or League One in England, and they can actually account very well for themselves. So I think Togashi is a good example of that. In that, he is never going to be a star, but he can be a good role player, and he can. You know, Japanese players aren't coming into clubs with egos. They're ready to work hard and fit into the system. I think of just a ton of the handful of Japanese players who have come to MLS, like Kubo up in Cincinnati,
Yeah.
and those players have always been great, fan favorites and hard workers, and that's what you want to see.
See, and without knowing what my notes were, Dan has actually been looking at my notes as for most of this conversation so far. At the end of this, I'm going to ask for a couple of names that you think right now that are in J League that would fit really well just in Major League Soccer along the lines of what we were discussing just a second ago with Togashi and Atlanta United. Okay, the main reason we brought you on, now that we have filibustered for a good 5 minutes in the opening part of the segment, is that we have here at SDH, we have opposition research. And usually we do it with Atlanta United and the team that they're playing. We try to pull a source in about the opposition and try to figure out, okay, what do folks need to keep an eye on when it comes to who's going to be playing Atlanta United. This time around, with the second match in this window for the USMNT, it is a matchup against Japan. And I wanted to kind of give our folks an education about Japan as the Samurai Blue. They have already made it in the World Cup. What their pacing is right now. Are they just fine tuning heading into things, since we have 9 months or so before we actually are playing in competition? Heading into this window, we had the matchup against Mexico on the weekend at a great crowd at the Oakland Coliseum. Coming into this window, were there any set expectations for what these couple of matches were going to set out, or is it just kind of like, okay, let's see where we are, what are we doing here?
Not set expectations in terms of the results. I think obviously Japanese fans do want to see wins out of these games. Even a scoreless draw against Mexico was largely seen as a positive. I think Japan had the upper hand for large stretches of the match, and they didn't score, but Mexico are a very strong team, and they got a result. They got the job done. For Japan, these sort of pre-World Cup friendlies are definitely more about Hajime Moriyasu, the head coach, settling in on who he wants his final squad to be. I think there's a lot of names that I can say, yeah, they'll be on the flight, but there's still plenty of other seats that can be filled, that will be filled over these next few months. For the Japan Football Association, this is a big logistical test. Moving everything to the States, doing a lot of traveling. Moriyasu had some very positive things to say about Oakland and the preparations that they were able to do there. It is painfully hot and humid in the Tokyo area. It's terrible. I don't know how the weather is over there, but today I think it's a high of we're getting a high of 91,
Yeah.
93, 94, something like that,
Mhm.
and a bajillion% humidity.
Yeah.
And so I think that the San Francisco area was very a breath of fresh air by comparison. And I think Columbus will be pretty good for them as well. So just figuring things out, because obviously part of the World Cup and part of the challenge of this World Cup is that you have to do a lot of traveling, that you have to just move from city to city with not a lot of time to prep. So picking your base camp, picking out how you're going to travel, the timing, how you're getting the players to recover after a match before flying back to wherever all of these things are important. And I think that there's so much in terms of expectations on this Japan team to finally break through to the quarterfinals, that really every step of the way is going to be really closely scrutinized by the JFA as they make those preparations.
You look at this group of, if my math was correct, 26 that are here in this particular camp, and there are some familiar names to the domestic fan here in this hemisphere. You're looking at Wataru Endo, Maitoma that you're used to seeing out of the Premier League, Kamada, Takekubo. You're looking at I'm trying to see. We talked about Aizen. We've got, I mean, and that's just part of this roster. When you look at this group of 26, there are some familiar faces, but who do we really need to have in the spot shadow with this group going forward as you're getting ready for the World Cup?
So, you've named a lot of sort of the stars. I mean, I think that uh, casual fans will be familiar with a lot of Japanese players because they're playing in Europe and they're playing for elite clubs, and even players who aren't really for elite clubs. I mean, Takumi Minamino at Monaco, Junya Ito over in Belgium, Ritu Doan moved to Frankfurt this summer. So those are sort of your established names. I think you've got Ayase Ueda, who's at Feyenoord, and he's sort of one of the key attacking figures. You've got, but in this squad in particular, I mean, it is worth noting that there's a lot of injuries and injury-related absences. Hidemasa Morita, the central midfielder, he plays in Portugal. He's out for this window. Hiroki Ito, Bayern defender, he's still recovering from an injury he picked up over in the spring, I believe it was, that he hasn't quite recovered from. Tomiyasu, who just got let go from Arsenal, he's working on rehab. So there's a lot of fringe players in this squad, and by fringe, I'm talking about players with 10 or fewer caps. Joel Chima Fujita, who moved to St. Pauli this summer. Koki Ogawa. Yukinari Sugawara is still sort of relatively untested. Well, I shouldn't say untested, but undertested. Hiroki Sekine, Tsuyoshi Watanabe, who moved to Feyenoord this summer, who's sort of a dark horse, really interesting pick for defense. I think he's accounting for himself really well so far in this break. So you've got tons of players. I mean, that's the thing about Japan, is that our A team is in Europe, our B team is in Europe, our C team is in Europe. So, and quite frankly, I think that even the B team would have done pretty well against Mexico, and even the B team would probably beat the US, which is what we're about to get to.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and when the United States took it on the chin again, and after you on the show this morning, we have Bart Keeler, who is part of our network. He's our lead U.S. guy with the Soccer for US POD. And he's not in the channel. He's not in the waiting room or anything. He's not in the green room waiting to come on. I can hear him screaming bloody murder already. He's not logged in. I can hear him from his place here in town.
He's not gonna come out from behind me with a steel chair.
No. He would probably go chasing after several individuals on the national team with steel chairs and try to figure out, how to make an impact that way. The frustration for fans and a lot of folks in and around the USMNT, especially after yet another loss, and now they get to go up against Japan coming up here in short order. What is the vibe there about the U.S. squad? Is this something where they're sitting there going, "Man, we really can, sit there. We can get a good win here against one of the hosts coming up in the World Cup." What is Moriyasu saying anything? Is anybody saying anything? Or are they just kind of sitting there and no selling it leading into the matchup?
Right. Japan culturally is you're not going to see coaches going out there and giving the other team some
Ain't gonna be no
whiteboard
fodder, huh?
material.
No
Yeah,
quotes, huh?
no quotes. Especially not Moriyasu. But I think that from Japan's perspective, having this window be against two World Cup co-hosts, so it does speak of, they do want to get good results out of this, because I think it does send a message if you're going and beating and getting results against the hosts. And let's not forget, I mean, Mexico and the US are top 20 FIFA teams. I don't know exactly where they are in the standing right now, but Japan are also in the top 20. So being able to get that result and potentially help Japan solidify its place in pot two. I think pot one is out of reach, but pot two is still probably going to happen, and we'll see how UEFA shakes out. That's key. And yeah, I think it would, if you beat the US much like Japan did 3 years ago in Germany. I think that gives the fans a bit of confidence. That gives the squad a bit of confidence, especially going into our October friendlies against Paraguay and Brazil, who will be very tough opponents. And I mean, both of those games are going to be in Japan. But I think if you look at how the Japanese media is reporting this, even as far as the U.S. South Korea game, nobody sent writers there. They mostly just took, they watched the recording and took quotes from The Athletic and all that stuff. Like, that's sort of the Japanese media. I think US media tends to try to focus on everything, which, because the US media is big enough to focus on everything, Japanese media mainly focus on Japan. And they might, the occasional freelance writer might go and try to report on future opponents, but for the most part, they're focused on, our squad of 26 and what they're doing.
Losers of 2 in a row. Mexico right now, the U.S. is at 15, losing 2 in a row. Mexico has won 3 of 4, and heading into right now, they're at 13. So Mexico at 13, USA at 15, and Japan right now at 17. So that's what you're looking at in this particular. The only reason I know that is because I went to FIFA's website, and I'm like, oh, okay, so let me get the rankings really quickly while you're talking. Stylistically, when it comes to this matchup and just in general, when folks are looking at what Moriyasu is putting out onto the field, how would you describe what they do stylistically in the attack and in defense?
So this cycle has seen Moriyasu switch. I mean, Japan had been on a 4-back system for the longest time, and Moriyasu had been toying with a 3-back system during the last cycle, and in this cycle we've sort of transitioned to that fully. So 3-4-2-1. You can call it 5-back if that's what you're into, but generally we accept it as 3-back, and very dynamic. I think if you look at who we have available at midfield and at forward, these aren't players who are sort of meant to press for 80 minutes and sneak in a goal on the counter attack. These are players who are very good at setting stringing the ball together, lots of passing, lots of good assertive movement towards the goal, lots of movement up the wings. Junya Ito is a beast on the right, and Mitoma is similarly nasty on the left. Like, he can just do things. And you've got, I mean, Maeda is one of Japan's hardest working box to box player, period. Arguably no one in Europe has his stamina. He's just, he can just go for 90 minutes and he'll still be doing laps after the game. So you look at how they played against Mexico. They pressed really assertively. They were able to also attack for long periods of time. They were able to mostly shut Mexico down. Yeah, I mean, it was maybe that's going a bit far. Like it was a fairly even game if you look at the stats and look at the score lines. But I think Japan accounted for themselves very well. And if you look at how the U.S. played against South Korea, I think that you're going to see a much stronger performance from this Japan side. At least that's what we're expecting. Although with the asterisk that it really depends on what lineup Mordiasu puts out. Is he going to go with the starters, who I think that the starters against Mexico were closer to the first, the A team of this squad. Is he going to rotate? Don't know. But we'll see. And I think if you look at who's in this squad, it doesn't really matter who Moriyasu puts out. Like they should be able to put something together, and if they don't, then we'll see some changes in October.
I was going to ask what your gut tells you with this particular matchup, and I'm going to go quickly and just stare at the starting lineup, and we'll figure out the. So the starting lineup was Suzuki in net, and they have it listed as basically a 3-4-2-1.
Yep.
Seiko Watanabe, Itakura, and then the four midfield, it was Maitoma, Kamada, Endo, and Doan. And then you had Minamino, Kubo, and Ueda as your attack up top. And substitutions, Itakura lasted for 60.
I think he got a knock, so
Okay.
we'll see. Maybe Sakine covers for him in this game. I am not 100% up on his status. But yeah, it was interesting that most of the I don't mean to cut you off, but just interesting that most of the substitutions for Japan were on the attacking side, bringing on Maida, bringing on Yuito Suzuki, bringing on Juni Ito. Like these are not players that you bring on if you're trying to like stable the ship defensively. These are players you bring on if you're trying to go for the kill.
Yeah, and so let's see. It was Kamada went 69, Minamino went 69, Kubo went 69. So it was a triple sub with about 20 to go. Then with about 10 to go, Maitoma out, Dewan out, Suzuki and Machino in. Okay, so you got most of the folks playing most of the minutes, and I guess it just comes down to what you want to do. If you sit there and you sense that you can, if you are Japan, that you can get after the United States and continue to have the fan of the United States men's national team pull out what's left of their hair after what happened on the weekend, then I mean, shoot, line them up. See, it's like, okay, how many minutes can you give me? Go ahead and we'll knock it out and we'll see what happens. I mean, that to me seems like, if you sense a weak U.S. squad, then you go after it and you come up with a result, and you can sit there and say, okay, we've gone up against Mexico, we've gone up against the United States, we have a draw here, we've traveled 3 time zones, we've gotten whatever the result is here. I mean, I could see it. To your point, yeah, do you want to rotate depending on what the physios tell you, or do you want to try to chase a result? I mean, it will be an interesting chess match to figure out what that lineup is going to look like. But I could sense it chasing after a weakened USMNT squad. And yes, I did just use air quotes.
If you look at the squad that took down the U.S. 3 years ago, I mean, a lot of those players are still in this squad. I mean, Maida was in there, Kamada was in there. There's a lot of rotation, sort of a lot of changing of the guard after that last World Cup. But there's going to be a lot of familiar faces in a way, and maybe not in the good way, because I think that U.S. fans will remember how Japan did dominate that game start to finish. I mean, that was no contest. And it is up to the fans who go out to Columbus to turn it into an intimidating atmosphere as much as they can. But going back to talking about preparations for the World Cup, that's also the kind of thing that Japan needs. This national team is not really used to going to unfamiliar places and being booed by 40,000 people, like they were in Oakland. I think that it's you don't get to play against Mexican fans every day.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get to play against U.S. fans every day. And yes, they can go to Indonesia, they can go to Saudi Arabia, and it is a hostile environment in bunny quotes. But I think we all agree that a full pro Mexico stadium hits a little different, and that's not at the national team level when you're used to playing friendlies in Tokyo to 60,000 adoring fans. That's not something that you're used to in that context. And I think it is important that the players learn how to be able to play in that context.
8th successive World Cup coming up. First quali was back in 98, exited the group stage after 3 straight losses, but they have really come on and they have become a force to be reckoned with on the international stage. Last question for you, and this is for you to go into your J League data bank and do some advanced scouting for the rest of us over here who follow Major League Soccer. Who do you think out of the J League currently playing right now should directors of player personnel be chasing after to be like, dude, you sit there and you're going like this. It's like, no, get this guy. He'd really do well in Major League Soccer. Who in your scouting reports would be that guy that you're kind of pointing at, but not, look over here.
I mean, to be honest, it's really hard to point, from my perspective of like who would, if a Japanese player is good enough to play in MLS,
Mhm.
they're probably going to want to play in Europe, and that's sort of that's the challenge. So I have to like sort of set expectations for like, well, if they're going to play in the US, you need a compelling reason for them to want to play in the US. And so I look at like Takaoka in Vancouver
Mhm.
and how he just had this amazing, I wouldn't say career revival, but like he's doing it wonderful. He's doing wonderfully there. And that's a case where if you're a Japanese goalkeeper and you're looking to sort of step up in an environment that could challenge you a bit more than the J League does, I think that it's so hard for Japanese goalkeepers to go to Europe and get playing time. So I mean, I was saying if you're Keisuke Osako and maybe he's probably happy at Sanfrecce Hiroshima, and I know he is in this U.S. squad. I don't know, or in this Japan squad. I don't know if he's going to get any time on Tuesday. But if you get a good offer from an MLS club that's going to guarantee you the starting spot, you maybe think about it. It depends on where. I think if you're looking at players who are in their very late 20s or early 30s, they want that one last overseas challenge. I think of Hiroki Sakai, who was a very decorated right back for Japan. Played in Marseille for ages, came back, played for Urawa, then went to Auckland City, or no, not Auckland City, Auckland FC,
I'll
whatever
see.
the
Yeah.
FC, whatever the A League club is,
Right.
and they made him captain pretty much, and like he led them to a really strong result in the A League. So that's the sort of profile that you want, and I think that yes, it's good to go after younger players. Like I think Togashi is a great example of that, but like Maya Yoshida at LA Galaxy, that's the profile that you want.
Mhm.
Like look at Yoshinori Muto and Yuya Osako are getting paid a ton of money at Vissel Kobe, and I'm sure they're pretty happy there.
Yeah.
But like them in the J in MLS, absolutely. I think that that's the level, and I think that MLS has a problem in that they've done zero promotion of their Japanese players here in Japan. And I think that the big problem with that is that Apple TV Plus is not advertising season pass at all,
Hmm.
even though Messi is arguably one of the most famous players in this country.
Right.
So I don't know if there's no signing that's going to change that, but I think that there's you look at who's coming out of you look at who's going to Europe, who's going to these smaller Belgian and German and Portuguese clubs, and you can I think that MLS teams can look at them and say like, hey, why aren't we making a pass at some of them and seeing what they say, because when you have over 100 players in Europe, not all of them are going to make it to the national team level. Not all of them are going to get their big Bundesliga signing. So I think that you can also look at the Japanese players in Europe and be a bit strategic. And if things aren't working out, try to approach them.
All right, hit the promo for me. I love the fact that we were able to catch up and give folks an education getting ready for the Japanese national team, the Japan national team, and the USMNT. Go ahead and hit the promo and where folks can follow you and all the great stuff that you're doing over there.
I've got it right below my name. I mainly post on Blue Sky. I write for whoever will pay me to write for them, so that could be you, or that if you're watching. I've covered the J League and Japanese soccer culture for close to 18, 19 years now. You know my name. You've seen me on these shows. You've heard me on podcasts. I love, I love the game here. I think I try to uplift the community because we have an amazing grassroots community of English language writers, reporters, podcasters who are trying to shed some light on the J League. We've got a really exciting 2026 coming up, not just with the World Cup, but also we're switching to the fall spring
Ooh.
schedule.
Ooh.
So there's going to be that special competition next spring to serve as sort of the transition season. And that's going to be super fun. I think they're basically packing an entire year's worth of derbies into 4 months.
Wow.
So that's going to be awesome. And then, the fall, spring, new challenges. And hopefully that comes off the back of getting through the round of 16 and getting into the quarters. So we'll see how that goes. But watch Japanese soccer, watch Japanese women's soccer. All you NWSL fans, I'm sure you're loving all the players who are coming through.
Mm-hmm.
And watch Japanese sports. We have fun over here.
No doubt about it, and that's why we dialed you up. You weren't too far off when we were talking ahead of time when we both admitted that we were prone to tangent. But just be safe, my friend. You now have, where the key is under the mat. You know where the garage door opener is. So if there's anything that you want to come on and talk about, the platform is yours. Just sit there and knock on the door and go, "Yo, Nelson, we got to hook up. I got something to talk about." Especially as we go into the World Tournament 9 months from now, we're going to be banging on your door. Dan,
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me on. Hey, maybe we'll do a post-mortem of the game in a few days
I like that.
before I get swallowed up by the World Athletics Championships, which are here starting Saturday. So, yeah, well, thank you for having me on again. Thank you to everyone for watching.
And yeah. There we go. It's a Monday. That's a conversation with Dan Orlowitz, and Dan will be back. We're going to tape again on Wednesday night, which will be Thursday morning his time, which will be when it airs our time. So 13-hour time difference, and we'll take a peek at what goes on with the matchup on Wednesday. And so now that we are in hour number 2, and I imagine that this particular individual is, how do we phrase, fairly fired up about what happened on the weekend. Time to bring in Bart Keeler from the SoccerForUSPod. Bart, we've got grades to get into. We've got the numbers to walk through. We've got our opposition research from Dan getting ready for the matchup with Japan on Tuesday. I imagine that there were a lot of, how do I phrase, unattractive emojis that probably carried their way through a lot of conversations after what happened with South Korea. So am I far off in my conversation?
I think we skipped past the emojis and went straight to expletives, gentlemen. That was a disappointing and just straight up disheartening performance from the USMNT. I think the biggest emotion after that game was confusion, because we don't know what the hell is going on right now.
Yeah.
And you're paying big bucks to a guy who's supposedly a good manager. And he is screwing up every possible thing that involves player management and player selection right now. He's ousted several players who are, in many people's opinions, really good players. Doesn't feel the need to call them in, at least. And is bringing in guys who anyone could tell you isn't up to the international level. I'm not saying they're bad players, and we'll get into it, but there's a difference between being really good in MLS and being influential on the international scale. That seems to be an issue right now, John. We don't know what exactly this team is and what it can do, which is really disappointing.
Question was raised in the Discord, and what I will do is I will somewhat qualify it with the 100% lineup of lineups that the USMNT should have.
We don't know what that is.
Well, okay. Well,
that's the problem right now, John. So sorry to preempt you. The problem is, I think we know who our best 11 players should be on the field. Mm-hmm. We think we know that.
Okay.
But we have a manager right now who says, well, that guy doesn't give it as much effort as I personally feel like he should be giving. So I'm going to call in a guy who isn't good, but you know what? He works hard in practice despite not being actually useful in a game. And that's what we're stuck with.
The question in the Discord was, would this team qualify for the 26 World Championship where you're chasing after a cup? Would they qualify for this tournament if it was in another country and there was no such thing as the automatic qualifier? Would they qualify for the World Cup, do you think?
Again, John, define this team. Because we don't have Weston McKennie, which he gave his reasons, but he's good at giving excuses, John. Sorry to bring up that word. I know Jason hates that word, but at this point, we're reaching excuse level with this manager because everything it needs an excuse with this dude. We don't have enough fans in the stands, or the players don't care enough, or some line he's going to give us that we don't know. We don't know, John, because we're not sure what Pochettino thinks is his best player pool. And so the reality is, and we can talk about coaches all we want, but players matter. Players, he's right. Players score the goals, players defend the goals. And he keeps putting out subpar players and it goes, well, it's the fans for not being in the stands. Why aren't they here to support us? As we're asked to watch, players who are very clearly not our best players. They're not stars, to be just frank. And when you continue to put a guy out and he was fine on Saturday, but you continue to put guys out like Max Arfsten and Sebastian Berhalter, and you go, this is what's going to carry us to the World Cup. That's just it's just disrespectful at this point. And so that's the problem we have, John, is we don't know. I could tell you who I think our best 11 are. That doesn't matter because the dude making the calling the shots doesn't like that one dude one time maybe went golfing.
Paul Kennedy, in his breakdown of the whole thing, he has it laid out that one thing is evident about Pochettino's roster selections is that he has no clue who among the 60 to 65 players he says his staff is following he'll take to the World Cup. Nothing matters until the USA Opens World Cup on June 12th at SoFi, which is a huge problem. Asked after the 2-0 loss to South Korea when it becomes important for the USMNT to get wins to build trust and confidence, Pochettino responded, we need to start to win when the World Cup starts. Pointed to the many examples of teams that excelled in the years leading up to the World Cup, flopped in the finals. He was part of Bielsa's much fancied Argentina team that dominated the O2 World Cup qualifying in South America, but exited the group stage in Japan. Quoting, once again, Kennedy, everything Pochettino says is true. USA could lose every game it plays before he must pick his team before heading off to prepare for the World Cup, not out of the realm of possibility, and it will be the same as if it wins every game. Interview with Mike Woitala, Bruce Arena said the qualifying competition really grows your team to find out who can play and who can really deal with the pressure and everything else, end quote. So that was Bruce Arena to Woitala. Kennedy says what the loss to South Korea and Harrison drove home is that the lack of urgency is killing the M&T. Both sides of the ball, no sense that plays had to be made as if the USA depended on them to go to the World Cup or that a player's own chances of making the World Cup team depended on making plays. So you are in the Kennedy camp, obviously, with what Paul wrote in his column coming out of that 2-0 loss.
Yeah, I mean, I think yes, in theory, John, nothing matters until June 2026 and that ball kicks off for the World Championship of a cup of a sport.
Yes.
But you should look like you can do the damn thing before then. Period. It's the same people who every year try to tell me the Falcons are going to be good despite them losing every preseason game. You got to look like you can do it. And right now, this team looks incapable of doing basic things like pressing in a coordinated fashion. They don't. Sorry, we gotta move the microphone away.
You're gonna work
in a coordinated fashion.
You're gonna work.
We don't
here.
We don't press well, which is supposed to be a hallmark of a Bielista system. And I know Pochettino is probably I think the furthest from that in terms of what he does, but like you still got to press. There were moments of it when, South Korea took a goal kick and we could press high. We created nothing else out of that. We don't defend in a low block well. We get carved up easily. We got defenders out there who are 80 goddamn 7 years old.
Wow.
Sorry.
There's the
He's
E.
87.
There's the E.
We got old guys out there trying to cover for a dude who isn't good enough to play on the international level. We got a guy who's not good enough to play on the international level covering for a guy who can't beat a turtle in a race. Like, what are we doing? And that's the issue that I have, John. If you're truly trying to evaluate Tristan Blackman, well, I'm just going to focus on him for a second,
Sure.
so I apologize.
No worries.
I don't think he was terrible the entire game. I think he was mostly just okay. The problem is he's playing next to a dude who shouldn't be on this starting line. But he continues talking about just pretending like, oh, you got to battle for a position. Why does Tim Ream get every single start as if he is beholden because of his age to the starting lineup spot? And so if you're even trying to evaluate players, you're not giving them the proper platform on which to evaluate. You're setting up bad experiments.
So then to follow your Tim Ream example.
Who was bad. I'm sorry, he was the worst. He was the second worst player on the field on Saturday.
Well, we'll get into the numbers. And the numbers
for me anyway.
Yeah, the numbers are different, but not by much. So all right. So then in a perfect world, so like perfect world, I mean, we're taking the current head coach out of the discussion. What would your center back pairing be?
Well, I'd love for it to be Chris Richards and Mark McKenzie. I think that gives you the most balance of athletics ability, soccer ability, technical ball skills. Now, I concede that Mark McKenzie hasn't decided to grab this spot, and that is a problem. But again, to me, the obvious answer is you have Chris Richards, and everyone else is trying to play next to Chris Richards. So again, that goes to my evaluation, right? You're setting up a bad experiment. The experiment should be Chris Richards is the control. Why Tim Ream is the control, I have no idea. This makes no sense in my brain. I'm not a scientist, but I know how to set up a dang experiment. I took 4th grade science class.
Yeah, I was an IPSer in high school.
Yeah. I was not an advanced.
I was awful at it. But I was, yeah.
Science. Yeah. Science and math were not my advanced classes, John.
Right there with you, brother.
The issue is, why are we not trying out who works best with Chris Richards, who is indefatigably right now the best performing player under Mauricio Pochettino? But yet and I understand he was hurt. Okay, sure. Again, another freaking excuse. Oh, well, we couldn't do it because. What are we doing here? I just don't. The plan, and the plan doesn't make sense. And I think the real issue comes back to this underlying feeling that I have with this man is that he is not taking this job seriously. He tries to gaslight us and say, well, Americans don't take soccer seriously. The fans don't care enough. The players don't take it. Bro, you aren't taking it seriously with your squad selection, with your lineup selection. You're not taking it seriously. And you have to understand that this country hosts a World Cup in 9 months, 275 days, I think, right now. And this team looks incapable of winning a game against anyone who's halfway decent. And the stats bear that out, especially under this man's tenure.
All right, so we have, in a perfect world, your center back pairing. Who's your starting left back in a 4-3-3?
Well, it's Jedi. It's Jedi Robinson. And right back is Serginho Dest.
Okay, midfield.
All things
being equal, like I said, give me.
I would say Tyler Adams, but he had a terrible game on Saturday. Ideally, it would probably be Adams, McKennie, Reyna.
Okay.
I think would be what I would want the most. I think that gives you a lot of what you would want to do. I could see. I actually would like to see, and again, this is an experiment that for some reason we can't possibly conduct. Adams and Johnny play together to see how they actually play with each other. But I think from what we know and what we've seen, I would say it's Adams, McKinney, and Reyna. And people are going to sound off in the comments. I'm sorry, Doug, to ruin your great weekend with your daughter's wedding, but I would start Gio Reyna at the World Cup.
So then up front, in your front three would be Pulisic, Weah, and is that
Balogun. I think Valerian Balogun proved on Saturday that he's probably our best striker. Now, that said, I would love to have Ricardo Pepi and Valerian Balogun in camp competing with each other, but I still think Balogun is a better striker full time than Ricardo Pepi. But both of those guys, I think, are starting quality.
Youngmin Sun scores in the 18th. Dongjiong Lee scores in the 43rd in front of a crowd of 26.5. Apparently, there was dynamic pricing, or at least a lack of a desire for USMNT fans to pay what was on the board to go see a matchup in the swamps of Jersey. So no real surprise. There were a lot of South Korean fans that went and watched this match. Pricing and venues is another thing that is probably a separate segment for us on another rundown. You had the starting lineup, Matt Freese. Is he your number one keeper in your mind?
No.
Who is?
I'm sorry. He hasn't proven anything. He really hasn't. He's been fine. He just... he's just fine. I'm sorry.
So then
I don't know who the starter is. I think
what's your keeper camp then? Turner?
I mean, Turner and Freese are there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's Stefan is there. I would like to have seen him a little bit more just to see if his return to MLS and playing a lot would have helped, but I don't know about that. Schulte I like Schulte a lot. I don't think he's there yet. I don't think Celentano is. I mean, I think Celentano is decent. I don't think he's there. It's not Chris Brady. It's not. I don't think it's Jonathan Klinsmann. Now that said, if you tell me that Celentano or Klinsmann start on Tuesday, tomorrow, I think that would be great. Actually, I think trying to experiment in that regard would be fine. I don't think Matt Freese has taken the job as his outside of the penalty shootout against Costa Rica. I don't think he's been particularly that's our guy. But Turner also hasn't. And I think that is where you shift the focus on the players, John, and this is a great position to talk about it. No one said, I want to be the starter come June, 12th, 14th,
Sure.
2026. No one has said that in a lot of positions, and that is another issue. Goalkeeper is definitely one of them.
Matt Freese given a 4, by the way, from our friends at Soccer America.
Yeah, he didn't look good. I'll give him slight pass that, I don't think the goals were necessarily his fault. The second one probably was. I don't think he needs to come out like that, but there were a lot of, as I'll always say for every goalkeeper as a member of the goalkeeper union, a lot of bad things have to happen for a ball to get to a goalkeeper. And if you're taking shots inside the penalty area and you have more than 2 guys unmarked, I don't think that's the goalkeeper's fault, John. But he does concede 2 goals, and he has some bad moments in passing, and yeah, it wasn't great. Again, not good. And there needs to now be accountability because you benched Matt Turner for a bad game. A 4-0 loss to Switzerland with a much worse lineup in front of him. So I am curious what that accountability standard will be for Matt Freese.
Backline start. Dest, Blackman, Ream, and Max Arfston. I know, and we'll pull Max Arfston to the side because since day one of his call-ups, you have not been a Max Arfston fan.
I don't think he's a left back. That's my summary on Max Arfston.
Dest punched a 5. Tristan Blackman was given, get this, I cannot remember the last time anyone got a 2. Woitala gave Blackman a 2.
What did Tim Ream get?
Tim Ream got a 4. Max Arfston got a 3.
I would flip Blackman and Ream. I thought Blackman was mostly okay. The problem is, I think moving up to the international level is tough. And we have seen Blackman come out for camps before. And I think that's what's annoying about this call-up now, John, is just to be, and I'll extrapolate this to the Roldan conversation when we talk about him. It's not that I don't think Tristan Blackmon is a good or bad defender. I think if you watch him in MLS, you go, he's pretty darn good center back. He does not extrapolate his skills. He does not take his skills and transfer them to the international game. Well, that doesn't mean he's bad, right? Look, I think I'm a pretty darn good goalkeeper in Sons of Pitches until we move up a division and all of a sudden people are faster than I am.
Blackmon in this
that's kind of the thing is I don't want to sound like we're dumping on these guys because that makes them sound like they're not good at soccer. They absolutely are.
Mm-hmm.
But they're just not at this level. And we've seen that from Tristan Blackmon. So again, that's why the call up for me was just so, what are we doing? And but look, you got to see him. Pochettino said he liked what he saw from him. I don't know if that's a obligatory, like, hey, I don't want to like dump on you or make you feel bad. I just want to make sure that you feel like you did all right. I do think he was better than Tim Ream, who was not good at the things we needed him to be good at, which he's supposed to be the dude who can pass the ball. And he had a worse day passing than Tristan Blackmon.
Jarrett joins us from the Mountain Time Zone here on a Monday. He probably heard you, Bart, yelling without even having the show queued up. We are, Jarrett, hip deep in the discussion about the men's national team and what happened on the weekend. And Bart obviously is, how do we phrase this? Less than pleased.
Bart had a bad weekend.
What are you talking about? There was only one Power 4 team that lost to a Group of 5 conference team. Only one, Jarrett. Only one.
Oh, yes. The discussion about going to Athens, Ohio the week before backyard.
I'm so glad that athletic director is no longer directing our athletics.
I will not begrudge you any anger or property destruction you partake in, especially as a WVU grad. I feel like it's your God-given right. So there's that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I didn't watch the national team, but I saw enough of what happened to go, that's it's not great. Oh, Jurgen was in the crowd too. Great. This is going swimmingly. Meanwhile, Greg Berhalter's going to take Chicago to the playoffs.
Yeah. Do you think Jurgen Klinsmann was given that suite, or do you think he paid for it from the checks he's still cashing from both of those federations?
I kind of hope he's paying for it with the checks he's getting from multiple federations.
Yeah.
And I kind of think it's like I kind of hope he got it off SeatGeek too, off a discount. Pennies on the dollar. Not that you can afford anything going to a U.S. men's national team game. Not that it is an affordable experience for most people. God forbid we make it affordable for the average fan to go to a game, and God forbid a game in New York not be a South Korea home game.
All lucid points from Jarrett Smith in the Mountain Time Zone this morning. We mentioned the back line. Not a whole lot of high grades. Legitimately, all 4 starters totaled 14, according to Woitala. Midfield starters, Weah, Berhalter, Pulisic, Adams, Luna. And so I guess he's looking at it as 4-5-1. Weah a 3, Berhalter and Pulisic 4s, Tyler Adams a 5, Diego Luna a 6.
Tyler Adams got a 5.
Mm-hmm. Provided valuable help for the back line as deep as in the penalty area, as deep as in the penalty area, stealing the ball from Jae-Sung Lee in the 4th minute, blocking Tae-Suk Lee's cross from the edge of the penalty area at the beginning of the second half. Also joined the back line for innocuous passing when attempting a bolder delivery over the Korean defense he overhit.
Read those numbers back to me, John.
Sure.
You broke him, John.
I know. Well, look, to give you early thought on that, Jarrett, he was broken well before that moment because
it was.
He earned us the E for today with 2 words that we have, I think in the 8 years of the show, have not had uttered on the program. Weah a 3, Berhalter and Pulisic 4s, Tyler Adams a 5, Diego Luna a 6. Tyler Adams provided valuable help for the back line as deep as in the penalty area, stealing the ball from Jae-Sung Lee in the 4th, blocking Tae-Suk Lee's cross from the edge of the penalty area in the 46th. He also joined the back line for innocuous passing. When attempting a bolder delivery over the Korean defense, he overhit. Yes.
Is Waitala from the Hudson River Valley? Is that why he is bolstering Tyler? I don't understand. To say that Tyler Adams was our best midfielder on Saturday is as delusional as Mauricio Pochettino telling us that we played better than South Korea. That is an absolutely false statement from Waitala, and I am sorry. You can say, oh, well, he recovered the ball. He was bad. He broke our shape multiple times. He's part of the reason why we were carved up so easily, because he was not defensively sound in his positioning and screwed up a lot of our pressing triggers because he just decided to be Tyler Adams, the superhero. So you can say he had ball recoveries. Not really. If you look at the stats, he had 0 defensive actions, 3 recoveries, and 2 tackles for a defensive midfielder. No, he was bad. Sorry, Mike. You are wrong. Tyler Adams was worse than Sebastian Berhalter, and that is scary to say.
Sebastian Berhalter was part of a U.S. midfield that played slowly when compared to the Koreans and with less precision. Berhalter pounced on Min Jae Kim's bad pass and shot from 26, flew well within reach of keeper Yeonwoo Jo. Berhalter created a Chris Richards chance with a well-delivered free kick, but also mishit passes. And that got him
a lot of passes. So did Tyler Adams.
That got him a 4. So Diego Luna, who got the highest grade in the midfield, got active in the latter part of the first half, sparked one of the USA's few swift counterattacks. 1-2 with Pulisic looked promising until Pulisic's first touch failed him. Luna also fed Pulisic for a 47th minute shot that flew high. Referee Rion Radix ignored Jin-Kyu Kim grabbing Pulisic's arm. Crisp pass sent Tim Weah into lethal territory. Weah's pass went to Min Jae Kim near the Korean goal area. So basically not a lot of stuff to talk about for the midfield. And your one forward listed as Josh Sargent got a 3.
Yeah.
Never got a delivery he could shoot from, exited after 62, still looking for his first U.S. goal since 2019.
No, I mean, look, not a good showing for Josh Sargent. You can talk about, yes, he didn't get delivery, but you also, as a striker, have to put yourself in spots that players can deliver to you.
Are we talking about the U.S. national team or Atlanta?
Yes. Yes. And I'll continue by saying, and your striker also needs to do a better job of leading the pressing triggers. Which team am I talking about, Jarrett?
I don't know. I'm kind of just being a bitch this morning.
I'm not going to sit here and say Josh Sargent never deserves a look ever again, but I think it's just unfortunately for him very clear that, again, whatever he does at the club level doesn't translate to the national team level. It just doesn't. And yes, he hasn't scored since 2019. It's a long time, John.
Yes.
It's a long time. And he hasn't not had opportunities.
For a double.
He was the starter during the World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't score. I know he's been injured a lot, but he's also had a lot of opportunities. And again, if we want accountability, if you want people to actually look at the performances on the field and make decisions, can't justify ever bringing Josh Sargent back until, maybe you look at him for the 2030 cycle. I don't know, but he scores a whole lot for his club teams. He doesn't score a whole lot for the USMNT.
Subs on the day: Christian Roldan, Alex Freeman, Chris Richards, each got 5s, along with Alex Zendejas and Jack McGlynn. Folarin Balogun got a 7 from Waitala. While Serginho Dest and Folarin Balogun, previously unavailable because of injury, made their first appearances under Pochettino. The players with the most appearances under the Argentine coach are now Tim Ream with 13, Diego Luna with 12, Max Arston and Jack McGlynn each with 11 heading into Columbus tomorrow night.
That makes me sad, John.
5 shots to 4. Go ahead, Jarrett.
I have this sick feeling that not unlike Younghoe Koo, who we wasted Younghoe Koo in Atlanta, his best years under Arthur Smith's little nepo "I'm smarter than you" regime. And now Younghoe Koo is broken. The man's changed his kicking stance like 3 times in the last year. He's broken. He needs a darkness retreat of his own, and I wish him nothing but the best. But he's broken. I fear in a similar way that the U.S. men's national team missed the boat on taking the most advantage of Tim Ream's late career abilities in the last 4 years, where he was really good. He was really good at the World Cup. He was good before and after. And Father Time remains undefeated. And I fear that we are approaching that into the parabola that does a 90-degree drop with Tim Ream.
Yes, bell curves,
Yeah.
and all of that stuff.
I think that is the problem. That he has 13. Look,
But how much? I'm going to ask this question because I'll play devil's advocate for a second.
Okay.
9 months to go before you're chasing after a cup with the rest of the world in 2026. How much of this is trying to figure out spots 12 through 26 as opposed to spots 1 through 11?
Well, he doesn't have spots 1 through 11 figured out that we can tell. And that again is the problem, because his words are saying there are lots of guys who, need to work harder, or they're not dedicated enough, or X, Y, and Z excuse that he's given to not call in what, unfortunately, whether you want to believe it or not, are the best players. Wes McKennie, Yunus Musa, these guys are better than anything else we have right now. Johnny Cardoso, I understand he's not great for his national team, but at his club level, he's pretty darn good. There are guys who are just better. Mark McKenzie is just a better soccer player, and
that's
I
why
don't have to be.
And that's why I raised the question, because of those individuals that that
we are 9 months out. I would like to have those guys in this camp to work together to build some sort of chemistry, because that's the other problem, is we have zero chemistry heading in. Because while yes, a lot of these guys have played together, right? I mean, Adams, McKennie, Musa, Pulisic, Weah, those were the guys during the second half of World Cup qualifying and the World Cup, and the guys who helped us win 3 straight Nations League titles. But they also don't have chemistry together in this system. It's slightly different. It's not a whole lot of different, but it is different. And it's just good to play with each other, when you're leading up to a tournament. I mean, that's kind of my issue. So I understand what you're trying to say, John, is like, we know our starting 11. I think the fear is we don't know that. And we probably should have a good idea who at least starting 8 is. Who are 8 guys of your 11 should be probably sold right now. I mean, I think it's fair to say that, do I know which attacking midfielder is going to play? Probably not. Do I know which player is starting next to Chris Richards? Not really. And goalkeeper is obviously a question. Okay, fine. And so you're right. Maybe we're wasting time in this camp to find who can be players 12 through 26 or however many they bring.
9 through 26. If you're, I'll stipulate to your 8 with the questions of center back, keeper, and up top.
But so I would say that I still think we have a good 15 guys that we know as fans, we can see based on what they do for their club and then what they have done in the national team in the very recent history, that there are guys who probably are in that first 12 to 15. And then, so yes, we need to find the next 11 players to fill out the roster. Okay, fine. Why are we it doesn't make sense to me to call in guys fully brand, have so many guys who are on the fringes into a camp like this. Because to me, the question should be, how do they work with the players who we know are going to be there? And again, you're calling up, Sean Zawadski, you called him up and he didn't even play him. Yeah. If you need to try him out, why isn't he getting tryout? Instead we got more Tim Ream, we got more of Tyler Adams, we got more of Sebastian Berhalter, right? So again, if your thought process here, if your research question, John, is who are those next guys on the squad, but yet your starting 11 was outside of Tristan Blackman and maybe Josh Sargent, guys who Pochettino has seen and knows of. Sergiño Dest, maybe you just needed to see him because he's been hurt, but it's not like you had an experimental 11. You had Tristan Blackman as your experiment and Josh Sargent maybe as your experiment, depending on how you want to look at it. So I understand your point, but I would even say that's not even seeming to be the goal here, because he's not actually doing any experimentation, unless he thinks that, he didn't like it, what he saw in training, in which case I would say, well, then why did you bring him in if all you needed was half a week of training camp to go, now this guy's not it?
Shots on the day, 17-4, all 4 on target for South Korea, 5 on target for the United States, 5 saves for South Korea, 2 for Matt Freese, 9 corners, 6 to the U.S., 12 fouls, 8 to the U.S., and 1 offside on the day. So the ARs kept their flags down most of the time, possession to the U.S. at 54%. So as we have looked at this, I know that you because of everything else that you've been talking about, you wanted to mention Christian Roldan, I believe. Was that another talking point here?
It's fair to say that the team looked a little bit better with Christian Roldan in there. I think we need to say that because, as Jarrett loves to remind me, my praise needs to be as loud as my criticism, or whatever that quote is. He was better than Adams or Berhalter. I think we need to be a little bit more reserved and tempered in our praise in that, though, because he was better than bad.
Says more about them than it does him.
Exactly. I think that's,
and I like Christian
he's fine,
Roldan.
Jared. I'm not going to tell you that Christian Roldan's a bad soccer player.
No, I'm not going to, but I'm also not going to tell you he needs to be the guy who's a game changer on the national team.
No.
I like Roldan, and I think he is a solid player, but he if he is the guy who is coming in and making everything work for me, then I have to look down at the end of the bench and ask my guys who are supposed to be better, who are supposed to be game changers. What are you doing? What you doing? Because that guy who is limited, I think, at this point of his career, is coming out here and making things work better than you are when you're supposed to be entering your prime. What you doing? So no, I do not disagree with you at all, and I like Roldan. He shouldn't be the guy who is making things work while my guys who are supposed to be key guys are failing to do just that. I will fully support you on this.
You head into the matchup now with Japan on Tuesday.
Yikes.
Well, and now is it reserves starting? You see rotation. How much stability do you have from one lineup to the next? Are you just anticipating more analysis? What are you looking at, Bart, for the matchup coming up here on Tuesday? Other than by staring at your face here on the video side of things, you're not all that wholly optimistic.
I'm looking at Pochettino's track record in non-competitive friendly windows. Mm-hmm. So not the Nations Leagues, those two, right? And even if you want to look at that, the Nations League window from March. In October, we had a pretty strong squad against Panama for the first game. Took a very depleted squad down to Mexico and got beat. Skip ahead to that March window in the Nations League. Obviously, he put out what he felt was his best 11 against Panama in the Nations League semifinal. We got beat. I think rightfully he rotated a bit for the third place match because, whether we like to admit it or not, they don't really mean all that much. June comes around. I think he plays what he thinks is his best 11 against Turkey. We lose, but it looks okay with a squad that is not very high ceiling anyway because of the nature of what he called in. And then he rotates the heck out of it, and we lose 4-0 against Switzerland. So my concern is, John, he will rotate to some of the guys.
He'll rotate the heck out of it again on Tuesday?
I don't know if he'll rotate the heck out of it because I don't think I guess the Switzerland match wasn't super, super rotated, but rotated enough, right? There were some substantial changes. That said, I think rotation is good, right? Like I said, I kind of would like to see someone not named Matt Freese starting goal. I just want to see it. Again, I don't think Matt Freese has said, I'm the number one. I would like to see a center back rotation, right? If Chris Richards is healthy enough to start him, maybe you start Blackman next to Richards. I don't know if I would approve of that, but at least I could go, yeah, put him next to a guy who can run. That would be nice. But I would like to see Noah Kai Banks play. I think if you brought him all this way, you should try to play him. Do you I don't think Weah was as bad as the numbers say for a number of reasons, but maybe you time to start Alex Sendejas, give him a chance to prove that he can do it from a starting position and not just from off the bench. I'm not saying rotation is bad, right? I mean, it wouldn't shock me if Christian Roldan starts tomorrow. But the problem continues to be that this roster's ceiling is still low. So is the floor. And that rotation to guys who are, in theory, weaker compared to what you, in theory, put out your best lineup against South Korea, outside of, I think, a couple obvious, experiments.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't signal to me that we're going to have a better game against Japan, a team who is better than us in multiple facets, if not all of them. So I don't expect a whole lot. I'm sorry. I just don't. I mean, I think that the pattern has played out. And again, I don't necessarily say, the result of a friendly does not matter.
Right.
The performance individually and collectively matters. If you had lost 2-0 to South Korea because Sun hit a worldy free kick, and oh darn, you were pressing for a goal in the second half and they nipped one after all the subs were made, fine. But Pochettino is dead wrong. We were not better than South Korea on that. We may have played better than them for 25 minutes. The game is 90 minutes long, and they were better than us for the other 65. And so that's just my concern is you're going to play a better team, probably with a slightly rotated lineup. To me, that doesn't equal a recipe for success. Again, results don't matter in friendlies, but performances do. And if you're truly trying to make these experiments and fact-finding missions, my concern is we won't even be able to learn anything from the friendly.
Jarrett, what do you think about what's going to be facing the USMNT at the Death Star on Tuesday? What are you looking for?
Japan's going to press the shit out of you.
Yes.
Because this new era of Japan is not like a sit and be methodical. They are going to use their athleticism. They're going to press you. How do you respond to that? Because this team, and could parlay this conversation to the local team, your local team, not my local team. You are missing a certain amount of some bitch in the roster.
Mm-hmm.
You are missing guys who, when the game is over, no matter what the score line is. And to Bart's point, if it's 2-0 and you get a worldie and you get nipped at the end, trying to tie it, you go into the I'd rather lose 2-0 than and then not try and make it 1-1. That happens.
Right.
But no matter the result, at the very least, traditionally what this team did is it made it miserable to play against them. Like the other team walked off that field, even if they won, and went, that was not fun. None of that was enjoyable. Like it's kind of like playing Iowa or in football, or like some editions of Utah, where it's like, it's just not going to be, no one's going to enjoy this. It's going to be physical. It's going to be hard. You're not going to have a chance to breathe. But you have to be the one to bring that as the roster. And it's missing. You ask what I'm looking for? I want to see. I want to see how many times dies. I want to go ahead on.
No, I'm just going to say, you want to see Christian Roldan with some sun bitch.
No, because you know why? Because I know Christian Roldan has that. I've watched him in Seattle for a decade. I know he has that. Christian Roldan is not my question. Christian Roldan's a great depth piece. And if I'm up 2-1 late in the game and I'm like, hey, my guys are gassed and I need somebody who's going to help stabilize the ship and keep guys mentally locked in, then Christian Roldan is my guy for that. But I'm asking my posh tattooed millionaires to be the ones to have that sumbitch in them. Because right now, they don't consistently. I have to amend that because, sometimes they're going to come out and show it, whether it's club level, whether it's national team, whatever. Sometimes they're going to show it, but not consistently. And I need that.
That was my biggest complaint, overall complaint from Saturday, internally watching this game. Talk about that. You got to have some bench. Christian Pulisic spent all summer making this soap opera documentary about himself and complaining about, people just don't understand. I need a rest. And I'm not saying he was bad, but where was you didn't want to come back and be like, let me prove to every single person that my decisions this summer are going to make me a better USMNT player. Where was that? His free kick, oh my good Lord. Oh my Lord, that was so bad.
And now I have to listen to the old national team players of yesteryear, and their quasi-hypocritical bullshit, feel justified in everything. And I say that because, they'll sit there and tell you that, these guys don't these new guys don't like being criticized. They're soft. Oh, yes. But also, anyone who spits a bad word about some of the former national team players, they clutch their pearls faster than anybody you've ever seen. Don't give me that hypocritical bullshit. Y'all are just as soft at this point of your careers, and you're falling into the same damn trap that older players fell into when you were young, of complaining about everything and calling everybody soft. And the second you get called out on it, called to the carpet, or criticized or challenged on it, you grip your pearls and you act like somebody just, threw septic water on your kitchen floor. So miss me with that bullshit, and miss me with the internal arguing between former players. I don't give a shit what your legacy is with the national team. Miss me with the constant bickering, and we're tearing each other down, whether it is former legends or guys who had one cap with the national team, and current guys, whether they have one cap or 20 with the national team. Quit tearing each other down, for God's sakes, just so you can get 500 more likes. It's not that important. What is more important is the fact that you have a World Cup in 9 months and you don't look prepared, and all you have is infighting and people who feel like their star might be fading, deciding they need their star to stick around just a little bit longer, so they're going to take the pot shots at you, and then you're going to take them back, and it's just this cycle of suck. Everyone take a walk.
Man. Jarrett was dialed up this.
Dude, I'm so tired of listening to the angst and like half this young roster listening to The Cure. Yeah, it's hard. You're playing a hard schedule. Like we went over this during the Club World Cup. Like you got guys who are playing a lot of games a year. I get it. It's tough. And yeah, like did Pulisic need a break? He really might have. He's always been prone to injury. Played a lot. He got his break. But when you came back, I needed more from you. And getting into this pissing contest with veteran players who used to play for the national team but don't anymore, but are building a media career for themselves doesn't help you. It doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help the national team. All it does is give somebody a bunch of clicks on social media.
Yep.
And no one is benefiting from this little catfight infighting bullshit that is constant in the U.S. soccer atmosphere. Jesus. What I'm looking for, I want to see how many times hopefully future MLS star Daisen Maeda runs right past somebody. Like Japanese Tito is going to just start boat racing people in the 65th minute this week. And that'll be, I will, it's what he is. Like, it's a dude, Daisen Maeda, he tried to leave Celtic this window, and Celtic refused to let him go because they're too cheap and lazy to actually go out and buy players, which is how they lost in the Champions League playoff round in Kazakhstan. They refused to let him go, so he's going to go in the January window. Somebody go grab this left winger who literally does not ever run out of gas, and has that Tito quality
winger?
where, yeah,
to MLS.
I would love it. He also has that quality where he's so damn fast and he presses so damn hard, he creates more chances than he probably should. So the conversion rate isn't as high as you want it to be. I would love it, but you're probably going to get priced out by a team in Germany, if I had to guess. I would be tickled, though. Also, I think he's 26 years old, 27 years old. So a prime age player, plays on the left wing. Scored like 30 goals last year. Yeah.
Subtle hints from Jarrett Smith. Let's see. So
Japan's going to press the shit out of you. It's going to be brutal. Not to say the scoreline is going to be brutal, but playing them is going to be tough because you're going to want the ball, and Japan is going to take personal offense to that. What are you going to show me?
Daisen Maeda is 27, turns 28 October 20. To answer your question, sir. So that's
he's got a contract left before he truly thinks about coming to MLS, in my opinion.
So after this window, it is 2 in October within a 5-day period. Ecuador at Q2 on October 10, Australia at Dix on October 14th in Commerce City, Colorado. Then 2 and 4 days in November. Paraguay at Chester on November 15, Uruguay in Tampa on November 18. Yeah. Bart
and John, I'm gonna just kind of wrap it up with this: is that we are getting a good slate of friendlies. If you even include the Turkey and Switzerland match, like I will credit U.S. Soccer for getting good opponents in these friendlies.
Right.
So when we're not playing our best teams against teams that are going to the World Cup, that feels like a missed opportunity to really test and to really learn and to take those lessons and improve. And that's, again, just where I'm just so frustrated because I didn't learn anything that can help us at the 2026 World Cup thing, possible tournament thing that may or may not exist. Yes. Sorry, whatever we have to call it.
Yes.
I didn't learn anything that can help us come June 2026. And I think that, John, is the concern. So if I'm looking at the Japan match, give me a lesson or two that I can go, oh, this is something that we can use to improve come June 2026.
SoccerForUSPod, what's the rundown?
We will see. I am traveling for work this week because not that I have a real job, but I am assisting my father with his job. We'll see how that goes.
Yes.
I'll be in Hoover, Alabama, where John's favorite football coach ever made his namesake.
Right.
And
yes, absolutely.
So I'll be there through Wednesday. So if I get back in time, we might be able to record. And then Thursday, John, I'm hopping on a plane to fly up to Pittsburgh to then drive down to Morgantown for a game on Saturday.
Yes.
So Bart will be busy this week. I'll be traveling a lot.
Bart will have a backyard brawl and a front yard fervor in Hoover. So just be safe, my friend. Have fun, and you and Jarrett definitely set the bar this morning. I will say that when it came to
I apologize.
Look, it's a morning show, and we post it with an E.
We're all adults here.
Yeah, so we post it with an E, and then folks can listen and comment at their own peril. As always, just be safe, my friend. We'll catch up with you soon.
Yes,
and like I said, just be safe on the ground, be safe in the air. We'll catch up with you. We'll catch up with you on the flip side.
Bye, y'all.
There goes Bart. All right, couple of news things before we get out of here. Premier League and Manchester City have reached a settlement in relation to the associated party transaction rules. Parties have agreed to terminate proceedings. As a part of the settlement, Manchester City accepts that the current APT rules are valid and binding. And so we might even get into that conversation with our friend Jason Stevens. Jason, we were set to discuss for this week's multi-club ownership Masters class, moving sideways with all of your money, blue codes, hold codes, all those kinds of things. Remember at the end of last week, I showed you the graphic of the 22 companies that Chelsea has that are a part of blue codes, hold codes, and their Christmas tree. So we can add Man City and APT to that discussion. That'll be taped today, and we will talk, and that will be posted tomorrow on all of the platforms. Other stuff this morning, once again, from our friend Ben Jacobs. The ENIC unequivocally reject, their words, 2 preliminary approaches to buy Spurs. Lewis family insists Spurs is not for sale. Amanda Stavely and Firehawk Holdings must both issue statements confirming intent by October 5, and there are denials of any kind of Qatari interest. The article at Gimme Sports by Ben Jacobs, this coming in the overnight. 2 approaches to buy the 87% stake following the departure of Daniel Levy. Amanda Stavely's PCP International Finance and a consortium called Firehawk Holdings Limited, led by Dr. Roger Kennedy and Wing Fai Ng, both made initial outreach to buy Spurs last week, but in a statement, North Londoners both preliminary expressions of interest were unequivocally rejected. A statement from Spurs: Stavely and Firehawk are now both obligated under UK takeover rules to make a statement by October 5, regardless of whether they intend to bid or not. Stavely is expected to release her statement imminently. Confirmation she won't proceed. Although there may be caveats if she confirms she has no plans to place an offer, Stavely cannot change her position for 6 months. Sources close to the Lewis family insist Spurs is not for sale. And once again, Joe Lewis and his family own the majority of ENIC. 30%, like 29% and change with Daniel Levy and his family. Levy's departure means Lewis family are now taking a more hands-on role in running Spurs. Lewis's children, Charlie and Vivienne, are particularly involved, as is his grandson-in-law, Nick Boucher, who is the co-chief executive of Tavistock. New non-exec chair Peter Charrington, chief exec Vinay Venkatesham are viewed as the key and most influential day-to-day figures. Charrington has already held several meetings with staff to assess the club prior to Levy's exit. Since just over 13% of Spurs non-ENIC shares are publicly traded, the club is duty-bound to disclose expressions of interest, while potential suitors must also declare their intention regardless of whether they do intend to bid. Suggestions: there is a Qatari bidder waiting in the wings, followed by the failed attempt by Sheikh Jassim to buy Manchester United, are denied by sources. Let's see. Burnley captain Josh Brownhill has accepted and completed his move to Al-Shabaab, signing a 2-year deal. Andre Onana has signed his Trabzonspor contract, according to Fabrizio Romano, gave his green light to the move. Formalization from all sides expected within 24 hours. So Onana will earn more than Manchester United will earn more than at Manchester United at Trabzonspor due to the sign-on and bonuses. offered by the club. And that was probably the biggest news of those two on the day. So let me see. That's done. That's done. Okay. Couple of other things. We mentioned we've always talked about Barcelona and how they're trying to make ends meet and hiring appraisers and bean counters that will say that, yes, money that is in a certain place counts toward PSR and FFP, and have other two sets of bean counters come in and go, no, it doesn't. But then you get the opinion that you want. And so that way you're selling seats to a stadium that doesn't exist, using that revenue. And even the boss said, no, that's not how this works. Apparently, Barcelona faced stadium chaos after delays. And this is a headline of our friends at Talk Sport. After delays to the $1.25 billion project, could play their next match with no fans. So Barcelona stadium chaos threatening to stretch into next year. Club fearing having to stage games behind closed doors. Haven't featured at the Camp Nou since 23. Play their first home match of the season against Valencia on Sunday. Hansi Flick has been eagerly awaiting this first opportunity. Catalans have been desperate trying to redevelop the ground first built in 1957 to increase capacity to 105,000. Since the start of construction, Barca had been playing next door at the Estadi Olympique Louis Companys, a 55,000 capacity stadium on Montjuic. However, he said, temporary home only meant to be used until 2024 before continuing delays. Spaniards had earmarked this Sunday against Valencia as the curtain raiser. Venue still hasn't been confirmed. European football expert Andy Brassel told TalkSport, 3 different stadia have been touted as a potential host, saying, yeah, it's a possibility. The plan was always to be back next weekend, September 14, though playing the home game against Valencia in the Camp Nou. Now it's become clear that that is not yet possible. So they've got to sign off to play in what was previously known as the mini Estadi, because that's the Estadi Johan Cruyff. Holds 6,000. Barca B play there. Playing there without a crowd, basically. That's the plan for next weekend. Flick side switched to the home of the women's team in Barca B for the Joan Gamper Trophy back in August. La Liga regulations require a minimum of 8,000 seats, but even with an exemption, the champions are struggling to allow any fans in. Brassel tells Talk Sport it doesn't look like at the moment because basically there's too short a run for tickets. Too short a run up to A, ticketing, and B, deciding who can actually come in, because clearly there's a load of season ticket holders who would miss out, even with the fact that they've been playing in Montjuic for a while. Due to host Getafe on Sunday, September 21, before entertaining Real Sociedad on the 28th. Should the Catalonians fail to stage either fixture at the redeveloped ground, then they run the risk of European implications as well. UEFA require clubs to play all of their home knockout matches at the same stadium, which is an issue Barca encountered last year. Governing body also want the green light that Camp Nou is ready before the Champions League opener with PSG. Brassel continued. They've been playing all their games away to get Camp Nou ready as quickly as possible, hopefully play all their games there. Real Sociedad game on the 28th important because not only they're aiming to be back in the Camp Nou for PSG, first home game of Champions League, which is Wednesday, October 1st, but basically UEFA not only want them to play all their league phase games in the same stadium, so if they're going to play in the Camp Nou before February, they need to be in it for the game against PSG. But UEFA, it appears, this is Brassel still, would like them to have played a game and it to have been okay beforehand, so that basically means Real Sociedad on the 28th. Basically, that's the one. If they can't get back there for that, looks like they'll be going to Montjuic because they can't play in the mini Estadi indefinitely, of course. They need big crowds, need gate receipts, all sorts of good stuff, so they've got an agreement if they needed to go back to Montjuic until February, and that would probably be the time scale. Latest update from Cadena SER has claimed that returning to their old home in September is impossible. Marcus Rashford's loan side have until Tuesday to confirm whether a clash against Valencia will take place. Blaugrana had been planning to move back to the Camp Nou before it's completely finished and play in front of a reduced crowd. Brassel admits that despite his hopes, more than likely Champions League knockouts will be where it returns. That's the plan. 3 stages of redevelopment coming to the end, or they've come to the end, but they need to sign off safety-wise for stage 1. Basically, they need to be in there with a reduced crowd. UEFA hoping they can get it up to 45,000 for Champions League. That's another thing without getting too much into the boring technicalities of it. So many extra elements for Champions League. It's a production. That's why you have so many clubs, and you've had clubs across Europe that haven't been able to have Champions League home matches in recent years at their stadium. Union Saint-Gilloise can't do it. Union Berlin, when they first got in, had to play at the Olympiastadion, which was Hertha Stadium. Happens to a number of clubs. You need TV provisions, 4 TV units, big advertising boards, all the stuff. So these are the extra things that Barcelona have to think about. So keep an eye on Barcelona and the shock there. Also, Athletic Club defender Yuri Alvarez set for a 10-month stint on the sidelines, failing a doping test after Bilbao outfit 3-0 loss to Manchester United in the first leg of the Europa League semi last year. Alvarez cannot play football again until April 26, but can return to training next February. UEFA statement came out and said, analysis of the player's sample by a WADA-accredited lab revealed the presence of canrenone, substance prohibited in and out of competition under Category S5 diuretics and masking agents of the 2025 WADA prohibited list. Player accepted a voluntary provisional suspension, having effective of that date. Opening of disciplinary proceedings June 10. 2 UEFA ethics and disciplinary inspectors conducted an investigation. Case was submitted to disciplinary bodies for decision at their meeting on the 19th of August. Suspended 10 months from the date of the provisional suspension, June the 2nd, ending on 2 April 2026. So there's that. So you have all of those things that are lined up. Whew. Busy day. And the week's just getting started. Week's just getting started, folks. Let's see. Let me say hi to everybody before we let you know what's on, everything, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. Soccer Satan. Like I said, Soccer Satan came on 20 minutes into the Twitch pitch before the show started. Morning, Soccer Satan. Morning, David. Morning, Abby. Morning, Alex. Morning, Dell. Battery 1. 2-1 over Indy 11. Rhode Island loses to Lou City. Everybody loses to Lou City almost. Morning, 4-card. Wiley has given up on making it out of group. Morning, Lokeville. Morning, Abby. And then 4-card. Turner Kirby was the one who was in the Discord and he wanted me to ask the question about qualifying. Turner says Falcons coach is also scared to play his best 11 in the preseason as well. And Harry, Gio's not the guy at the 10, doesn't think he's good enough. Let's see. And then there's Abby and Dell. Yep. I think Pochettino's a good club coach, maybe not a good national team coach. We'll obviously find that out as we go. So once again, tomorrow, Casey White joining us, 9:15. Scott Wells, the head coach at Gardner-Webb, around 10. And then our tape conversation with Jason Stevens about Holco's, Blue Co's, all the Co's. And then the decision with Manchester City and the APT violations and the APT case. That came out that they basically just kind of ripped it up and they just kind of said, yeah, okay, we're done. Now, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. Let's see if there is actually anything on today that we can watch, or we just kind of locked in on ourselves. So Sunday, you had all the World Cup qualifying. You had all the big games in Major League and the NWSL. World Cup qualifying still in CONCACAF and in Europe. Israel, Italy at 2:45 on FS2. Telemundo has El Salvador and Suriname at 8:30 out of CONCACAF. Apple TV and MLS Season Pass. New England Revolution, Huntsville City Football Club. You're obviously looking at Huntsville City to continue their winning ways if you're a fan of Atlanta United too. A lot of World Cup qualifying. 3 matches started already in AFCON. You have 5 more in AFCON going at noon on the plus, 2 at 3 o'clock. International friendly is ANZUS, Australia, New Zealand, and that was at 3 o'clock this morning. Fox Soccer Plus at 2:45, Switzerland, Slovenia. Golazo Network simulcasting El Salvador and Suriname at 8:30. Paramount Plus has El Salvador, Suriname at 8:30. Panama, Guatemala, 9:30. Peacock simulcasting that, and that is your day. Woo. Yeah, well, there weren't any VAR reviews. It was just folks that were yelling about the USMNT. Bart and Jarrett went after it. And they certainly did. So once again, back at it tomorrow, and we will continue rolling through everything. Remember, Jason and his ongoing lecture series at Emory tomorrow night at 7 in the Woodruff Library. And it'll be a look at Emory's place in the the soccer pantheon here in the U.S., in the U.S. and in Atlanta specifically. And he's joined by both head coaches of the men's and women's teams at Emory to discuss their seasons and their place as well. So once again, Woodruff Library tomorrow. Emory, Jason's Atlanta Soccer City USA series continues with Emory University being the focus for this go around, and we would love to see all of you there. That's another go around of SDH AM. And for everybody here, for Bart and Jarrett, whose language was colored this morning. So when you see the show pop up in various and sundry parts, you will see the E rating this morning. Great to have all of you here with us, as you always are. Back at it again tomorrow, 9:05 Eastern time. And since it is, once again, quick thanks to Dan Orlowitz for spending time. Thanks to Jarrett and Bart for spending time. Thanks to Dave Gordon for spending time. And thanks to you for spending time. That's it for another go round of SDH AM. Be back in a little less than 22. And since it's the end of the show, that means I get to do this. Play it safe, everybody. See you tomorrow.